Today I've started with a picture of myself in front of some of my most favorite books, and I want to tell you that those books actually are in my collection. My name is Rabbi Gail Schuster-Buskila, and today I'm going to talk about prayer, which is connected to Parashat Toldot, which is the sixth Torah portion in the Torah, or the 5 books of Moses. But if you're interested in reading the entire Torah portion, or as a matter of fact, any part of the Bible, I really recommend using this wonderful website, Sefaria, where they place the Hebrew and the English next to each other. We are working on Genesis 25, but you really should read the entire parasha or weekly portion to get a full idea of everything that goes on in this fascinating parasha of Toldot. I showed this to you because I was interested in looking at my prayer books, because today's parasha is going to deal with prayer. I'm only going to talk about a few lines from the Torah portion and a little bit of my Midrash. I'm reading from chapter Genesis 25, verse 22. The boys were flailing about in her womb. She said, "If this is so, why me?" Rebecca needed to understand her conditions. No machines could give her insight into her awesome pregnancy. How would it end? How would she survive? But more than anything, she needed to know what the womb held and how the future would unfold. It wasn't enough for her to sit and wait. It rarely is. No woman ever spent 9 months without fear and dread and an excruciating desire to know what lay ahead. My Midrash continues, she turned to Yahweh to try to find an answer, not just any God, not the clay figurines or a huge tree, but to Yahweh, that Isaac had entreated before her pregnancy. Until this moment, Yahweh was only the God of her husband and, of course, her father-in-law. But now it would be her God, too. Rebecca's earnest request might have been like this. This is my idea of what it could have been. Can my voice be heard? Will anyone understand my pleading words as they echo around me? No one in this family will ever understand the feelings I've had while bearing this burden. No one can empathize with my connection to my offspring. Come to my aid. May peace of mind surround me during these difficult times. And the next biblical verse comes from Genesis 25:22. Then she went to inquire of Yahweh. If anyone is interested in the names of God, at the beginning I have a link to explanations of the names of God used in the Bible. This time Rebecca, not Isaac, got the answer from God. In verse 23 of Genesis 25, Yahweh said to her, 2 nationalities are in your womb, 2 people. They will separate from your womb. One people will be more intrepid than the other. The older will serve the younger. Here we have a combination of a prayer that was never inserted into the Bible. There are a lot of times that we get prayers, but not here. In this Midrash, I spend a lot of time dealing with creating the prayers that I think should be there, but might be missing. I started out as a young child, and I grew up in a congregation, in a synagogue, that dealt with creative prayer. So it was sort of natural for me to begin to write my own, as you saw in the Midrash that Rebecca didn't get a chance to say for herself. Many times we see all different sorts of prayers, and what I like is to think about the kinds of things that prayer means to people. My great teacher, Mordechai Kaplan, wrote about prayer and thinking in an unpublished manuscript in a book called Dynamic Judaism that was published in 1985. To say I believe in praying sounds to me as absurd as to say I believe in thinking. The question whether prayer is effective is only a special form of the question whether thought is effective. And just as we make use of the best thoughts of others in order to channel our own thinking into the surest and most beneficial effectiveness, so should we make use of the most noble and sincere prayers of others to channel our own prayers into a life of the greatest nobility and sincerity. Well, the problem was in the Bible, and this Torah portion in particular, that there were no other women who had prayers in the book of Genesis before Rebecca got pregnant and had this astonishing phenomenon of twins, and wanting to understand what was going on and needing to understand. And finally, in my estimation, her turning to Yahweh should have given them a chance to give us a prayer that we too could use as a model for when women, 50% of the population, are pregnant. Most women, many women, lots of women are pregnant and have difficult pregnancies. I had several myself, and I also had no prayer that I could turn to that would help me. But that doesn't mean that prayer is ineffective. I wrote that prayer that Rebecca said because I felt that I could contribute something that might help other people when they're in the same situation. Moreover, I look at creative prayer almost all the time. I think creative prayer is a fantastic thing. And I think that what it does is it gives voice to the modern expression, not just the ancient expression. In this particular photo, we see also a blessing for creating from a wonderful project called, I have to go in the right direction, the Open Siddur Project. There are tons of things in here for sharing prayers and crafting prayer books. This happens to be a blessing for creating. I happen to like the visual one, but this is beautiful too because you get to see everything. Blessed are you, source of life, who created us in your image and invites us to renew daily, perpetually, the work of creation. Blessed are you, God, who created us creative. I think this is an inspiring prayer. And I suggest highly that you look at this Open Siddur project to see whatever you can in this great site. Of course, I myself have quite a few prayer books, as you can see behind me on the shelf, that deal with prayer. I would like to just add one more little prayer today. that comes from a wonderful poet, an Israeli poet named Leah Goldberg. And Leah Goldberg writes this: Teach me, my God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips my blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my days be as the one before, lest routine set my ways. To give me a chance to think of things in a different way, in a way that maybe changes my perspective and gives me a different path. I think that prayer myself is something that springs like what happened to Rivka, where she just had to say something on her own, where she had to turn and express her feelings. This, to me, is the reason to write prayer. This is the reason also to look for prayers that might express our own ideas. If you have some prayers you'd like to send me, I would love it. I myself have written several prayers, as I said, in this Midrash, and I hope you go and read the entire Midrash. Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Toldot.